So there's a question that was asked me, I think it was Kay, who asked, can a Christian have fun? Like, should a person wait until while young and wild and all that and have fun later on in life or something? Should a Christian have fun? And I happen to think of this word dirge. I think it's actually in the New Testament somewhere. It says a dirge is a song or tune intended to express grief, sorrow, and mourning. And so, by the way, there were professional mourners in the New Testament times, probably nowadays. They actually hired them to come and, play musical instruments or sing. And a dirge, is the Christian life supposed to be a dirge? Sorrow, pain, being miserable, misery, woe unto us, looking terrible, wearing dark clothes all the time, mourning, a life of mourning, and on and on and on, so many questions I'm realizing as I keep growing in God. There's really flip sides of the coin. There's an Ecclesiastes in the NIV translation that says, the man who fears God avoids all extremes. So I will say yes and no again, or no and yes. It happens a lot. But Jesus himself was a man of sorrows. And yet, there's definitely a sense in the scriptures of Jesus being like a really happy, joyful man at times. I mean, did he go around with a somber face when he turned the water into wine and it was at that wedding? Did he crack jokes? I believe he did. I think there's evidence in that in the scriptures, in the Gospels here and there. Some of the radical things he said are really funny, hyperboles that he used, for example. Or, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Jesus talked about lots of banquets and, like wonderful times. Like, I'll give you one. Well, there's a lot of banquets. He called the kingdom of heaven like a banquet, by the way. He talked about a big dinner. Now, is that times where you're all coming in there really, sad and lower lip pouting? And no, celebration, happy. The kingdom of heaven is like a party, really. And Jesus talks about parties. I'll give you one that just comes to my mind. Luke 15, that's a familiar with one. When the son who comes back, the younger son, and he throws a big party and they're feasting. They have food, and there's not fasting at this time. And then there's, celebration, and there's a lot of noise and all. The older son comes back, and he's like down here like this. And he says, yeah, it's right to celebrate. It's right to enjoy this. Is that not having fun? Is a Christian life boring? No! I want to scream that at you. No, it is not. I'm never bored. I mean, life is so thrilling. Like, to walk with God is an adventure and exciting and fun. That's all the celebration things. So Christianity is very fun. It's a fun religion. Nevertheless, on the other side of the coin, or the other, it's not contradictory. It's just there's seasons and, in and outs. So you got to go, there's a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of mourning, mourning, and then there's joy, times of joy. There's sorrow, those who sow in tears shall reap in joy. So it goes from one to the other, flips on the other side. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. There's a great heaviness that Paul experienced all the time. I have a great heaviness and continual sorrow. How can you be up here all the time when there's a deeply hurt and dying and needy world, really, really abused and hurting people, abused kids, and they're in brothels and everything else? It's like, oh, how can you even think about laughter? And so Jesus warned about that. He said, woe to those who laugh, for they shall weep. He said, blessed are those who mourn, like I mentioned earlier. So That's in Luke 6. And so, oh my goodness. So what do you mean, Gordon? Well, which is it? It's both. Not simultaneously. Although there is simultaneous. So that's kind of weird, but there's a paradox in that. Where I've experienced heaviness for people, but I still have joy. That can't be taken away from me. And Jesus said, your joy is going to remain. It can't be taken. He said that in the book of John, like 16, I think it is. So rejoice always. And again, I say rejoice. Rejoice in the Lord always. So be happy and celebrating always. And yet, there's this deep inner heaviness that he mentioned that he has all the time. And if you're going to follow Jesus, you're going to experience a lot of sorrow. He's a man of sorrows. He's quoted in Isaiah as being. And then there's, Paul said that I might know him in the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his sufferings. That third one right there in Philippians chapter 3. So, yeah, there's just a life of suffering and sacrifice and denial and pain, suffering. Paul went through it through persecution. We're going to go through persecution. What did he say in persecution? Rejoice and leap for joy. Joy in the middle of your deep sorrow. Paul and Silas in Acts 16 were in the cell, in the dungeon, after being beaten, and what were they doing at midnight? Praying and singing songs, singing hymns. Can't keep a good man down. They were happy. You should be happy in God. Think about this, that the demons are not subject to your name, but your name is written in the book of life, he said in Luke 10 to his disciples. Think about that. You're on your way to heaven, Christian. You should be like, yes, think about it. Like if you ever go on a trip and you have this anticipation, you're really excited, day comes and you're going, how much more like you're going to be with God forever in a huge, beautiful gold city, and you're going to spend time with Father and Jesus and your loved ones in reunion, and there's a lot of celebration to look forward to. And you celebrate it now. It's an already not yet thing. I've already got it now. I'm happy now. I've got tears of joy coming up because I well up inside with the prospect of me being with God forever. That is so good. I can't wait to be there. Like really, really, really living for him and loving him and praising him and throwing my arms around his neck and kissing him all over his face and everything I can do to get like, I am like happy. It talks about joy unspeakable and full of glory. 1 Peter 1. Like a real joy. Joy. Fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience. It goes on and on. It's all over the place. Comfort of joy. I mean, there's Romans 16. I mean, it's just scattered all the way through. And yet there's this ebb and flow. There's this sense of sorrow and pain that you're going through. And you have to pray through until you get joy. And then there's the, just like having a baby, you're really upset and you're travailing, or not upset, but your body's like, in pain and you're racked with pain. And then all of a sudden you break through and you forget about, women have the joy of holding that little one in their arms and the pain is like forgotten. It's like, wow, special. So it's both. But the Christian life is never dull. And there's lots of fun in it. Way better fun than the world that has to offer. Their fun leads to bitterness. It's like eating sweet candy and it goes down and it makes you sick. It's not worth eating the candy. Any sin is pleasure. It says pleasant or has pleasure for a season, but it leads to death and destruction and pain and hurt. The joy of the world cannot touch the presence of God, what you have in the presence of God. Whatever the world has to offer you, it doesn't even come close to what God has. I'd rather spend 5 minutes in the presence of God than thousands of hours or days or months or years outside of the presence of God. I've experienced His presence. Nothing touches it. Nothing comes close to the joy from heaven. The experience of heaven on earth is like, nothing can come close to that. There's a true joy, not just a sense of happiness or something. And I'm happy and I have joy. That's both. So anyway, I don't know if that answers it. Yeah, you can have fun. It's a good question. And now's the time to enjoy God and also go deeper into God. When you go deeper into God, then you experience the pain of God too. You start rubbing shoulders with Him, you're hanging out with Him. You kind of sense His sorrow for a world that's lost and they don't know Him and they're on their way to hell. Well, All right, God bless you. Hope you got something out of that. I did.